I was probably 10 years of age, I knew that I was going to help people. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew I was going to help people. Or children hit kindergarten and they're playing maybe just with their own siblings or by themselves. They've created their own universe on the way they see life. Then they're thrown into this classroom with the 25 kids. We're taught to start to emulate and copy other people. See, I think it's one thing to be limited, it's another thing to be locked. Some people are limited and locked. But if you can somehow get a revelation that your life is going to be meaningful.
Hi, Tim. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good to see you.
So tell me, who is Tim Storey?
Tim Storey is a person that truly loves life. I think there's a difference between going through life and living life. So I'm in the moment, fully present, fully feeling, fully alive. I'm living life.
I love that. What is the difference between going through life and living life?
I think the going through life is what a lot of people were educated to do is, we get through elementary school, get through middle school, go through high school, then what are you going to do next? And then we get a little older. When are you going to get married? When are you going to have children? So it's always something in the future. But I think Eckhart Tolle did such a great job in showing us the power of now, about being in the moment. So I perfected that at a very young age. Like I'm fully alive since I was little.
So how would you encourage somebody to think about living life and being in the present, especially when it's so ingrained in us to always be thinking about what's next?
Yes. So I think the idea of being many times nervous about what's next it's that idea of uncertainty. But if you can somehow get a revelation that your life is going to be meaningful and get a illumination, an awakening that your life matters, then you're okay going at a certain pace. So that's what happened to me early on. When I was probably 10 years of age, I knew that I was going to help people. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew I was going to help people. So I was already very, very awake at 10 years of age. And I think that helped me to be in the moment of that age and then the age that I am now.
It's so interesting because when you say that, what I think of is a soul's calling or a soul's purpose.
Yes.
And I love a soul's calling or a soul's purpose.
Yes.
And part of what is really important about this show is helping people understand how to listen to their soul's calling and purpose, because it's not that people don't hear it. It's that we're so trained to not listen to it. So where do you think that fear comes from, and how do you think we can unlock that?
Yes. So I think part of it is going back to the innocence. Before children hit kindergarten and they're playing maybe just with their own siblings or by themselves, they've created their own universe on the way they see life. Then they're thrown into this classroom with, let's say, 25 kids that are coming from all different backgrounds, nationalities, cultures, upbringing, education. And then they start to see that other kids are doing it different. That's why I like this quote that says, "You've been born an original, don't die a copy." I think that early on that we're taught to start to emulate and copy other people of what we think life is supposed to be about.
It's really beautiful because the most profound journeys often are when you're walking your own path.
Yes.
There isn't a roadmap in front of you.
I think there's no doubt about it, is so because we love creative people. Like if you look at Pharrell Williams and you see how his life has evolved from being a producer, and then at the same time he loved fashion, so he got into Billionaires Boys Club and all that. And then he loves movies. So he started doing things with movies and then scoring movies. His latest movie on the Legos is just like mind boggling. And then for him to be the head of Louis Vuitton for men, I love that about him. So he didn't let somebody limit him and then lock him. See, I think it's one thing to be limited. It's another thing to be locked. Some people are limited and locked.
That's so interesting because one of the things I think of is limiting beliefs that hold us back. And so a lot of times, because of the way that we're raised, we have all of these limiting beliefs that are ingrained in us to assume as truth.
Mm-hmm.
And part of where I realized that showed up for me is as a woman, a lot of times negotiating against yourself because you're negotiating against the no versus negotiating against the yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a limiting belief that holds you back. So what are some of the most profound limiting beliefs that you've had to unlearn?
So I think coming from Compton, California, which is known as the inner city, mostly back then when I was raised there, that the idea was, it's, we're lower income. There's a lot of strife. There's a lot of things that can cause you harm. So be careful, be careful. So everything was about be careful, right? The street lights are on. You better be in the house. Be careful. And then I had 3 older sisters. So my parents were really like, really be careful. So by hearing these words, be careful all the time, if I wasn't awake, I would have been too careful and never taken the risk. So one of the early limiting beliefs was this idea of almost having fear because of where we started and where we lived.
That's really important. And I'd love to spend some time there.
Yeah.
So having fear because of where you come from and the environment that you were raised in.
Yeah.
How do you unlearn that?
It's not easy. And that's why most people never unlearn. So that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about this journey that you're taking the world on to unlearn certain things, because I think most people never unlearn them, and they just have that kind of coat of paint of what people have put on them of how life is supposed to be, through the person they married, or through religion, or through their parents. So I think for me, I started to learn through education. In 6th grade, my teacher, he asked me to stay after class, and he said, Timmy, I want to tell you something. I think that you are brilliant. So he says this to me in 6th grade. I'd never had anybody say anything like that to me before. He said, I think you're brilliant. And because I think you're brilliant, I want to see if you would like to check out one of my books, as far as check it out, like from the library. He had these 3 books. He pulled it out of his briefcase. They used to have briefcases back then. And one of them was The Life of Michelangelo. And I saw that book, and I'd seen something in a documentary about Michelangelo before. So I chose that book. So when I started to read that book about this creative that thought outside the box and how he created art, Morgan, my mind just went, whoa. I felt like I found alignment with a kindred soul of somebody who saw things in such a different manner. I read that book, and through education, reading that book, it just made me that guy. I was just always reading and educating myself up and out.
Alignment is something that is so dependent on self-trust.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How do you hone self-trust?
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes, you should not really trust yourself. I think
explain.
there are people that go through times in their life where, okay, so alignment, like let's say if we wanted to go from LA to San Diego, because we're in California right now, because you do this all over the world.
Yep.
And we want to go on the 5 freeway. So there's going to be delays, watch, distractions, detours. And if we're not careful, you could have devastation. So we need to stay in alignment to get to San Diego. That's where we're trying to get. And so what happens, there's a lot of people that are good people that they go through phases in their life where they are not themselves. They're partying too much. They're dating silly people, right? They're totally just not taking care of themselves. So at that point, probably don't trust yourself. So what they need is they need what I call the power of partnership. They need like a Morgan or a Tim in their life going like, hey, buddy, I know she's pretty, but you probably shouldn't marry her right now just because we're in Vegas.
I love that.
No, this is the stuff I talk people out of. I'm really not lying. Like, I life coach very powerful people. And I have had people call me from places like, oh my God, I met the woman of my dreams. Okay, where are you? I'm in Marbella, Spain. We're getting married in 2 days. They go, how long have you known her? 3 days, but I know it's it. I go, okay, let's just pause for a minute. Just pause for a minute. Because I don't mind spontaneity. And I am not trying to limit anyone, but I also believe in wisdom. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm laughing because you sound like my friends from last week when they're like, Morgan, you went through a phase where you've had questionable choices in friends.
Okay.
And we're really proud of you to be out of it. And so I think to your point, when we go on journeys within ourselves, there's always something that we have to learn, right? Everyone has these learning moments and different things that if they're not healed internally,
Yes,
that manifests externally in the choices that you make, the people that you're around, the people you date, etc.
100% agree. Like, I'll give you an example. When I was 20 years of age, I went to Sweden for the first time. And I went there to go speak at schools on motivation and on dreams. And so that was the first time I was exposed to the Swedish culture and to even Swedish girls. And I was just hooked. I thought like, okay, I like the way this place is. I'm definitely moving here. But that was just because I was exposed. And it's almost like going to a great restaurant and thinking you should go there every night. No, that was just an exposure and an education, and then I learned from that.
Yeah. It's like, I love Wagyu. And if anyone doesn't know, it's the fattiest steak. It's like pure fat.
Yes.
I love it. And if you eat Wagyu every single day, you're going to put on a lot of weight quickly.
But tell me why you like Wagyu. Is it the taste or what is it?
It's the taste. It melts in your mouth.
Truly.
And exactly. It's so buttery. I've never tasted anything like it.
Yes.
And that's a perfect example where if I eat Wagyu every day, I will put on a lot of weight. I'll be very unhealthy. I'm going to, have health issues, heart issues. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So one thing I really like about what you said is this aspect of synchronicity and then another aspect of listening.
Yes.
And so I want to start with the listening side. It's really important for people to have the space that they create for themselves to reflect, but not just to reflect, to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And in a society where we always have so much noise and so many things demanding our attention, that inherently encourages people not to take that time for themselves. How do you learn to create the space to listen to your internal voice and let that channel through?
Yes. So I would say that listening has made me rich. So let me tell you, rich in what? Rich in friendships, rich in experiences, rich in even finances. And it's an interesting thing about listening is that because of me being the youngest of 5 children, and I had 3 older sisters and then a brother 3.5 years older than I'm little Timmy, the youngest, I learned to be a very good listener. And it was interesting, like my 15-year-old sister may be having problems with her boyfriend. I may have been 7 and she'd go like, Timmy, then he did this. What do you think? I go, well, tell me more. I was already like that at like 7. So this art of listening to people actually helped me with the art of listening to myself. Mm-hmm. And the art of listening to yourself is the power of quiet. I'm really into this whole idea of quiet. Big time. Because I think the best revelations, illuminations are in the quiet. The greatest downloads, what I call God ideas, are in the quiet. So much of my healing has been in the quiet.
I love that, because something I was just telling to a friend the other day is that a lot of times when the universe, God, source, etc. speaks to us, mm-hmm. it's either A, through our own listening in the space that we hold, or it's through signals and synchronicities that we get. So it's running into somebody and somebody drops something, a piece of wisdom, and then you hear it again from someone else, and then you see it again somewhere. Yeah. And it's a reminder, right? Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about synchronicities.
Yeah. So I want to say that I think we learned 3 primary ways. Education, which we mentioned earlier, conversation, which we're mentioning now, and the third is observation. So a lot of my growth has been in what I've seen. So in what I've seen are like maybe my uncles getting way too drunk at a family get together. I never judged them. I just thought, I'm not going to do that. Or seeing people being rude to like a waiter or a busboy. Even as a kid, I thought, I'll never be that way. I don't want to be that way. So it's through education, conversation, and observation, we learn. So this idea of to be in sync, in my opinion, is innate. It's something we were created to be. And when we're not in sync, we feel it in every part of our life. And we long for it.
That is so impactful and deep. I think a lot of times it's not just that you feel it externally, it's that you feel it internally.
Yeah.
You feel the desire, like you said, the longing, the calling for something that you don't have. Mm-hmm. How do you, so coming back to this concept of fear, because I want to spend more time there, the problem with fear is that it's not just internal, meaning the anxiety you feel, or the external symptoms, meaning inability to sleep or, inability to fully show up at work. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it takes understanding, not just cognitively, that the thing you fear isn't the full reality, but a lot of times people need to see it to believe it. Yeah. And so if they can't see it, they don't believe it. Mm-hmm. So how can we unlock this concept of fear?
So I think that one of the things that dissipates fear and lessens it is knowledge. That the more we know about something and understand it, I believe it can lessen the fear. And so let's say if somebody's talking about recession is coming, I'll go to some of my friends that know a lot about finance from different parts of the world, and I'll dialogue, and they'll say, it may come, but it's not going to hit us the same way. And I'll say, well, why not? Because we're going to prepare, and this is how we prepare. So it's almost like if a hurricane might hit the East Coast, let's say like Florida, and they say, okay, the hurricane is coming. Some people get intimidated, okay? Some people get overwhelmed and just lose it. Some people get extremely fearful, and that causes people to get paralyzed. And some people just realize another hurricane is coming and I just need to prepare for the storm. And so for me, I don't have that much fear because I've learned to prepare for storms.
What do you think is the biggest misconception people have about all of this?
I think that this idea that life is so unpredictable that you just never know that something just terrible can happen at any point. I do believe that we have divine protection. And this is not even religion I'm talking about. I just feel divinely protected. So when I am traveling the world, I've now been to 81 countries. I've been in some places where I probably should have been very afraid, but I really felt divinely protected. I've been in airplanes that they were just going up and down and up and down. Only twice did the mask actually fall. And people were screaming at the top of their lungs. And I promise you, I was just like, boom. Because I just felt it's not my time. I'm not going yet. And part of that is just a belief in my heart that me and you have divine assignments and we're going to complete them.
Yeah, I love that. That's
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in divine assignments. I believe that everybody has a purpose in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me say this. When I first met you, we met at somebody's house. And my thought was, what a force. This lady is a force. And I saw you just moving and then talking to people. That night, we didn't get a chance to connect so much because there was so many people there. But I loved just watching you be a force. And then in getting to know you in these different conversations that we have at lunches and that, and even being with some of our friends, you know, somehow you have connected to this proper information that you have an assignment. There are things in life you're supposed to do, and you're going to do them. And you do what I call power steps. Those are steps with purpose and intention. Purpose and intention. So people like us, we're not wondering and wandering. No, purpose and clear intention.
I love that. And something that was really impactful for me is that during one of our lunches, you said to me, your purpose is unfolding.
Yes.
And when I was meditating last night to prepare for our episode, I realized that you said unfolding. The episode's name is Unlearning.
Yes.
And I love this concept of purpose and intention because as I've learned to listen to my inner voice, I always ask myself, what is my purpose in life? And the concept I've come to is this concept of unlearning, right? Yeah. Creating the space for reflection, creating the space for growth, and allowing people to do that in their lives so that they can come to their purpose.
Yes.
How do you, so this concept of steps with purpose and intention, and to frame, I love Paulo Coelho, I love The Alchemist.
Of course.
And when he goes on this journey, he has no idea what the journey holds. He's going to this new world, this new land. You know, he's leaving behind everything he's ever known. That's very similar to, it sounds like some of, you know, a lot of what you've done.
Yes.
And it's very similar to what I've done and very similar to what a lot of people have to do when they go on this journey of trust and listening to their inner voice. What is purpose and intention within the context of how somebody can understand it if they've never gone on that journey before and they're just starting it?
Yeah. So I think it's not like just setting off without not knowing where you're going at all. I really believe that there is a divine assignment that's given to everyone. So because I work with people that are entertainers, I've asked many of the best entertainers in the world, I've asked their parents, what did your daughter say before she became this person? And it's strange. The daughter was saying what she wanted to be. This person, our greatest actors, what did he say he wanted to be? So I think it was innate that they knew it. Let's just take one name. Let's take Denzel Washington. He said he had a spiritual experience when he was a child where he knew that he was going to be known, his name would be known throughout the world, but it wasn't for the sake of fame. It was a platform that he could then help and heal and share messages that would change people. Okay. So I think that there's this innate divine calling, and that our calling is calling us. The key is for us to answer the call. Okay. So we answer the call. Okay. So how then do we get help? Here's what I believe. I believe that life then sends us partners, people who are positioned into our lives that help bring clarity to what we're called to do.
That's really beautiful, because I recently had an experience,
Mm-hmm.
and I have this experience
Yeah.
often, but it's always the quote I think of is, as you walk on the way appears.
Yeah.
And also, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two. And so I recently had an experience where I was meditating. It's 4 a.m.
Yes.
You love to meditate at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of talks about how different hours of the night you can tap into different energies. I like to meditate at 4 a.m.
Yes.
And randomly, somebody that I met once texted me, and it was exactly what I was thinking in the meditation on my phone.
No, amazing.
And I had met this person once.
Yeah.
And, this person has become a really interesting mirror and reflection mentor for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I truly believe that the universe brings us people and brings us moments and opportunities that are perfectly aligned when we're in alignment, or when we're open to alignment, right? Because sometimes, especially if we're early on our journeys, we may take a detour, we may accidentally take a wrong turn,
Mm-hmm.
and we're trying to find our way back. We have the intention of where we want to go,
Yes.
and we're always focused on where we want to go. And so the universe will send you a sign on the side of the road, turn left, right? Or your exit is 3A. Take exit 3A here. And that's what I believe these moments, these people are. So I asked one of our mutual friends, I said, how do we trust that we're in the right moment at the right time, and that we'll meet the right people when we're supposed to meet them?
Yes.
What's your perspective on that?
I think that most of the time, our timetable is not the timetable in which it's going to happen. In this idea of the unfolding that I was talking to you about, on how our lives are unfolding, there's a lot of things that I thought that I would do, like definitely by my end of my 20s, I will be here. And I wasn't. I was somewhere else. By the end of my 30s, I will definitely be here. I was somewhere else. But most of the time, I was probably in a better place than I had even imagined. So watch how beautiful this is. I think one of the things that we need to unlearn is that we should just seek advice from everyone. And we should just be always looking to just meet more and more people. I am not trying to do that. I'm going to tell you why. Because any great painter with a blank canvas, he's just not letting some amateur artist tell him what to do. You and I have been in studios with the best musicians, artists that just do amazing work around the world. Most of those are very close quarters. They just don't let random people come in and say, if I was you, I would do it this way. Okay. So I think one thing that we need to unlearn is that more is better. You really don't need a plethora of people trying to give you direction. I think you need to be in alignment to your assignment, okay, and here. And then there will be people that are brought into your life, as we hear, for a reason, season, lifetime. But there'll be very few that you should give the key into your heart of what Morgan is really thinking.
How do you know which people those are? How do you know who to give the key to?
It's time. It's time. The challenge of compassionate people and kind people, because there are challenges to every temperament and personality trait, is sometimes they give access too quickly. As you know, I'm very close with Oprah Winfrey. She does not give access. She just does not. You have to really gain it. You're going to get to a point with her, but you're not going all the way. And it's not just from being let down in life. It's just wisdom, whether she learned it from Maya Angelou or Nelson Mandela, because those were two of her mentors, or even Quincy Jones. But you don't just get access. So when I begin to see myself have access into her life and her open up to me and really dialogue about real life's issues, I thought, this is really interesting. But that was gained over time and through trust.
You read my mind, because what I was thinking at that moment was that two of the biggest currencies in life, from my perspective, and I'd love to hear yours, are trust and authenticity.
Yes.
And so trust as a currency means that you have to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the most expensive things to earn. And it's one of the most expensive things in some ways to give when you are very in alignment to your mission. That's why you have to be very intentional about who you let in a very solely intimate way. And so from a trust perspective, again, that to me is a bigger currency than any other currency in the world.
Yeah.
What is your perspective on that?
I love what you're saying. So I remember, I have two children. And I remember one time when they were little, we pulled up behind, the company is called Brinks, and they would bring money in and out of banks and other places. So the Brinks truck would come. And in this case, they must have really had something special, because the guy came out like this with a rifle. That is not common. I've not seen that in years. So last time I saw that was years ago. So my daughter said, "Dad, why is this happening?" So I said, because they have something very valuable in there, so they have to protect it. So you watch, these guys are going to come out of that truck, and then they're going to take it. Oh, they're taking it to that bank. That's exactly what happened. We have to see ourselves as so valuable that we protect what's within that truck. Like, we are carriers of change. We are carriers of goodness. We are carriers of people getting enlightened. We are carriers. So we need to protect ourselves. If they're protecting currency like that, how much more should we protect ourselves?
I love the thread of what you just said about we are carriers of change.
Yeah.
And what's in our bank.
Yeah.
What are the different types of banks that people can have, and what should they be thinking about protecting and viewing in that way?
Okay. So I'll give you an example. When I was in college, I went to seminary. So my doctorate is in world religion. And then I went on to do things in psychology. I remember one time one of my roommates was driving real fast. And I said, hey. I go, slow down a little bit. He goes, oh, I forgot I was driving with the world leader. And then he kind of chuckled, because I was just a 19-year-old with a dream, but he was pretty much telling the truth. I am a world leader, and I knew I was going to be. Now, at 19, I was just a guy still trying to pay my bills. I was selling suits on the side, right? But now I sit here, I've been in 81 countries helping people all over the world. So I think that one of the things we have to protect is our destiny, where we are called to go. Like if I was life coaching you, I could find it real fast with you. Like since you were little, your calling was calling you. I think that's one reason you're loving this podcast is because it's part of your calling, right? Change, innovation, being a pioneer, making a way where there is no way. That is just all you.
My first email ever was trailblazer101@aol.com.
Okay, so I didn't know that, but in just knowing you, the first night at that amazing lady's house that we know her, and we all met together for this dinner and then like sharing of people that are artistic, I just said, oof, this lady just gets things done. No, that's you. So one of the things you're protecting is that person. So let's say if you got into a relationship and you decided to be in a romantic relationship with somebody and that said to you, you just need to slow down. I don't know why you're always at this pace, and just slow down. And I don't know why this is always on your mind. What they really are is a detour and a distraction that can lead to a devastation and take you away from the calling that's calling you.
That's exactly why my friend said,
yes,
you've had questionable choices, because I've had friends who have said things like, oh, you need to learn to be more calm, or, more in the present, let life flow, etc. And I believe in all those things. And I believe that if you have a life mission and you have a life purpose, you wake up every day and you're excited about it and you want to do it.
I like you like this. So let me just tell you something about what I did to you today. So in the world that I live in, most people all walk in and there's a little bit of excitement. So I was recently at one of the TV studios and I didn't expect it. I was just there and people were coming out of their offices. Oh my gosh, Tim Storey, I really appreciate you. I love your work. I love how you help people. I love how you talk about the miracle mentality or whatever. When you came in today, I'm doing your podcast. Here's what I did, even though I'm older than you. I just gave you space. Just give her space. You're a force. Give a force space. Give him room. I think that anybody that worked with Prince, you better give him room. This is good, right?
So good.
There's certain people that you work with, just give them room and don't try to limit them and hone them into your liking. It's not going to work.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That is, thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for seeing me like that and for showing up because you see me like that. I completely agree with you, because the reason why some of the things that I've done haven't worked out the way I've wanted to is because when people a lot of times see brilliance or see, this amazing power of creation, they want to control it.
Yes.
Because they think that's the way to maximize it or to create more of it.
Yes.
And actually it's when you're, with somebody like Prince or like myself or like yourself, when you are in this space of creation and you try to put constraint and control on top of that, it limits that channel or that energy that the person is tapping into.
Yes.
And it blocks the magic.
That's super powerful. Okay, so let me go there for a minute. I think everybody is an important and vital piece of a puzzle. So let's use the metaphor and the illustration of making a puzzle. I remember I have a cousin named Esther, and she got me into doing puzzles when we were real little. We'd listen to Motown music, but the puzzle pieces were bigger. We started with the bigger ones. Then we went to like the mid-level, and then we went to the smaller pieces of the puzzles, which are not as easy. So there are certain people that have a piece of the puzzle that can shift a whole nation. Like you see what Nelson Mandela did. He like shifted a nation. You see what Quincy Jones did with music. He shifted the way music was done. When you look at Black actors like Sidney Poitier, he changed the way acting was done, even for African American people. But those are people that just did their piece of the puzzle. Everybody that's watching right now, you are just as important, just as vital, just as spectacular. Just come to realize, what is my piece of the puzzle? Where do I fit in this whole thing?
Yeah, that's so powerful, because that's part of what we're taking the listener on as a journey right now, is this process of discovery of their own piece of the puzzle, understanding the societal limitations that tell them your piece of the puzzle. So what I think is interesting about that too is that a piece of the puzzle always fits into the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
And part of creating the piece of the puzzle is figuring out where that fits in.
Yes.
So sometimes you're going to put the puzzle pieces, you'll put the outside together, you'll fill in the inside. Your time to fit into that bigger picture may not come until a later time.
So agree.
And, yeah.
So I think one of the challenges of being you is some of your thoughts, some of your ideas, people are not prepared for yet. So I see it as God, that God is preparing you to really just do some amazing things that are just going to help continue to change this world. But the audience is not prepared for you yet. And some of your friends have not been prepared for you yet. So in my thoughts, you're kind of in the laboratory. You're in the lab.
Can I tell you why I love that?
Yes.
Because as Morgan Mercer, my nickname is M squared, and my email signature is I'm in the laboratory conducting technology and life experiments.
And have we ever talked about this?
No.
So it's a bit of a gift of mine because I pay attention.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where you are. You are like, look, you're in the lab.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll never forget that I was asked to go and meet a very important person when I was 25 years of age. And this person said to me, the friend of this famous person, you should go, because if you don't go, they'll never invite you again, because that's how this person is. I said, I checked my calendar. I cannot go because I'm going to Montana to go speak to the Crow Nation, because I do things with Native Americans. And the person said to me, you will never get this opportunity again. You need to realize what's important. Well, what was important is that I gave my word to people in Montana to go speak to 58 people rather than meeting somebody who's like a legend in entertainment. And to me, that's character. And interesting thing, the person that I did not go see and change the appointment got so touched by the fact I said no to them. They said, how do I get him in my office? So it worked for my better to be a person of character and do what I knew I was supposed to do.
One thing I like about that too is that, and this may not be why the person was so adamant about then getting you in their office. But it goes back to this concept of trust, is that when people see how you show up with others, and when opportunities present themselves, you stay true to your word, it actually builds trust.
Yeah.
It shows people how you'll treat them.
100%. And to me, that's the opposite of the fear. The fear would have said, oh, little Timmy, you come from humble beginnings. You should run over there anytime the big person calls you. No, I'm walking in my divine assignment, and my faith is in the calling and what I know I'm supposed to do. And that calling just continues to unfold. It's never stopped. I'm going higher. If I have a setback, as you know, I like to talk about this, I don't sit in it and I don't settle in it. I get my butt right back up and keep going.
I want to talk about setbacks and comebacks. So what's the difference between a comeback and the miracle mentality, and where do those two interrelate?
They're kind of like next door neighbors. So where I got the idea of the comeback, the Tim Storey version of it, because obviously people have talked about comebacks in sports, comebacks in life since people have been on this planet. But I put a certain spin on it that got the world's attention. And what I started to think about it is that it's interesting how we have momentum and then a life interruption will come. An interruption is a disturbance. It's like a knock at the door that you did not expect. So for some of our friends, it could have been they got fired from a job, or they found out their mate was cheating on them, or maybe they became ill, or they started struggling with anxiety and depression and didn't see it coming, or even addiction. So those are life interruptions. When a life interruption hits most people, they have a setback. To set something means to fix it, to lock it, to solidify it. Set back. Okay. They're not set front. They're set back. So they've now gone back. Ooh, tough on people. Because when you're in a setback, you know it. You're like, oh my gosh, I should be farther along, but I'm set back. Or my money should be in a different place, but I lost so much on that deal. Setback. So what happens to most people when they have a setback, they sit in the setback. They sit in it and they're like, oh man. And they begin to think all these thoughts. How did I get here? They sit. And then most people that me and you know, they settle in the setback. They settle. You know, Morgan, I know you have big dreams, but I'm realistic now. Now that I'm this age, I'm now realistic. We both heard people talk this way before. What they've done is they've settled in the setback. So you sit, they settle, and some people cement themselves. And this is like a lot of my older relatives, like, I could have been, Timmy, I was so close to becoming something, but then they fired me when I was 58 years of age. So the comeback idea has changed my life. And then I'm grateful that I've been able to help millions of people through the 30 years of study on this subject.
What's so interesting to me is you say realistic, and I think, what is realistic? Miracles, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What is realistic? It's realistic to expect a miracle.
Yes. It's realistic to you because that's how you have educated yourself. So a miracle is something extraordinary, uncommon, not regular. So Tim, why do you know so much about this? Because I wrote a book called The Miracle Mentality, but I did 5 years of research before I even wrote the book for HarperCollins. So I've spent a good part of the last 10 years studying on the miracle mentality. And so A miracle to me and you is something that is going to continue to happen because we expect it, we believe it, and we make room for them.
So when you face major life changes,
Yes.
how do you know if it's a part of your soul's alignment or if it's a detour?
Okay. So let's go back to the idea of driving somewhere from LA to San Diego again. We're back on the road. I-5. In June or July, there are more bugs out in the summer. And no matter what car you have, you could have a Porsche, a G-Wagon, Lamborghini, a Toyota. You could be driving that car and bugs are going to hit the windshield. Have you ever been like in another city and you're driving and there's bugs on the windshield?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's life. Life is bugs on the windshield. It's, oh, I didn't know my tax bill would be that high. Or this is weird. Why is my right shoulder hurting? Or that's strange. I've texted her 3 times. Why doesn't she text me back? Like maybe one of your girlfriends, and maybe she's just like jealous of you all of a sudden. To me, those are like the bugs on the windshield. And so what we have to do is we need to just realize that's how life is. Life is not perfect. There will always be challenges. There will always be opposition to your mission, but we need to navigate even though there's bugs in the windshield.
I love that because it's the opposite of fear, and it's what we're talking about with trust, where with fear, what we try to do is we try to control. First, we try to assume what the bugs on the windshield will be.
Yes.
Always.
Always.
At all times.
Always.
Our mind is scanning for it. And then we try to control it proactively. And trust is knowing that, first of all, knowing there will be bugs on the windshield.
Yes, yes.
Second is knowing that when there's bugs on the windshield, we will be able to turn on our wipers, pull over, wipe off the windshield.
You got this perfect. Mm-hmm.
Get back on the road, right? So what is one of the biggest ways for us to trust that journey and trust our drive down to San Diego, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When there's bugs on the windshield and there may not be full clarity.
Okay. So I think one of the things with this whole idea of the bugs on the windshield, and let's not try to get out of this illustration because it's so powerful, is that the more I would get around other people, let's say from Florida who have bigger bugs, okay, or Louisiana, they had stuff. They have like devices. So I was driving with this guy with this nice Mercedes. He went in his trunk, the trunk of his Mercedes. And he pulled out a scraper, and it wasn't even like messing up the windshield, but he was scraping the bugs off. I would never have thought about that being in California, but I'm like, they have some serious bugs over there. So they need scrapers. Or someone may go into a gas station and be smart enough. You know, they have those little things where they have the water and then they have the thing that like clears it, right? It sure takes time and effort and energy, but you're bringing more clarity to your windshield to get back on the road and, you know, drive safely. So I think that one of the things that takes place in all of our lives is that, again, when the challenges come, I think most people are so thrown off because they saw the vision and they knew this could happen and they knew it was going to manifest. So I will say this as a person that's been around longer than some people, is that there will always be an opposition to the mission. Always. Always. In some form or fashion. But we are built to get around it.
What is the biggest life advice you would give to somebody who's struggling to make a decision that could change the course of their life?
I would say that I like what you were saying earlier about listening to yourself. Really what I call stop, look, and listen. And I say it this way, your dream has a voice. And I think that we are minimizing the voice many times of what our heart is saying to us because of the loudness of our lives and the loudness of what's happening out here, even in social media, etc. So I would say go back into a place of quiet. Go back into a place of quiet. And that could be a retreat. That could be starting to take drives on weekends by yourself with no music on, hiking by yourself. For a guy that has a lot of friends, I like being by myself. Being by myself has really brought a lot of healing and clarity to my life.
So one thing I think of when I hear you talk about this is, and it's such a complex dynamic that so many people are still discovering.
Yeah.
So before Paulo Coelho wrote The Alchemist, he wrote another book that led up to The Alchemist.
Yes.
And The Alchemist was the piece of the puzzle that fit into the bigger picture.
Yes.
When his time came, right?
Mm-hmm.
The book he wrote before that, it's a similar story, but it's different in that the guy in the book is listening to the two voices, and it's ego versus soul.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this concept of getting to know your shadow self, getting to know the unfulfilled parts of your soul, right? But the unfulfilled parts, your shadow self, your ego, and becoming familiar with that voice so that you can work with it and not be driven by it. You can learn what it needs to be in alignment with your soul. So how do you know the difference between your ego's desires and your soul's desires?
Yeah. I think that it's difficult. But I think that the more pure we become, the more innocent that we become, the more clear we become, then it becomes a lot easier. It's difficult if we're not clear, if we're not walking in that innocence, right? We can get lost so quickly by being around the wrong people and the wrong advice and the wrong things we're listening to and reading. So I think that the way to really gain clarity is to really step back into what we've said, this is the third time, to that quiet place and that innocence. And to me, it's little Timmy from Compton. Okay. So little Timmy from Compton was listening to Motown music. So every day of my life, 7 days a week, in the morning, I listen to Motown music. I did it this morning. Why do you do that? It triggers me because I get to do a lot of fancy things now. And I have like a lot of fancy people that I'm going to talk to throughout the week. Like that's fancy. That's fancy. I listen to the music of my background because it takes me back to that place of innocence of, yeah, you're older now. These are your responsibilities. You enjoy most of them. But in that innocence of little Timmy from Compton, I cannot be beat. That's my favorite guy. That's the guy that his eyes are still very much alive.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm really hearing come through here is that, and this is how I receive it, but it's a really big societal illusion that we need to unlearn is, and these are Morgan's words, but this concept of the pursuit of happiness, in the sense of when we initially had the pursuit of happiness, first of all, it wasn't all inclusive. It wasn't all inclusive.
Right.
And the way that I think society has developed and evolved is that we now see happiness as all of these external factors, these external things.
Yes.
And it's instead of the pursuit of happiness, it's the pursuit of your soul's calling, the pursuit of your own individual destiny, your own individual path. It's the pursuit of self-independence, self-reliance,
Mm-hmm.
the pursuit of authenticity. So I think one of the things I'm, again, hearing you say is that it's the difference between discerning your intention.
Yes.
And even when I was preparing for this episode and this show, that's something that was really important to me because I knew I would have the most profound conversations
Yeah.
if I had the right intention.
Mm-hmm.
And the intention had to come back to what would the audience be going through at that moment and what would they most need to hear?
So good.
And how can I help be a conduit
Yes.
of not only curating profound and insightful and really impactful figures like yourself for the show, and also understanding if I were in their shoes,
Mm-hmm.
what would I need to ask somebody like you to help?
Yes.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's all about intention.
No, I love what you're saying. And so let's use the word purpose again. Let's use the word assignment again. I think when you are in alignment to your assignment and in alignment to your purpose is when you feel the most fulfilled. You would agree?
Absolutely.
So to me, it's not just the happy feeling, it's the fulfillment. Like I was just in South Africa recently, and in the nighttime meetings, we were having an average of 12,000 people. But it was what I was doing in the daytime that was giving me more fulfillment. And one day I went into the townships because I've been doing this a lot. I've been 38 times to South Africa. And I was talking to some of the little kids and the older kids in the township, which is like being in the ghetto, okay, with the tin roofs and that. And then I was watching them play soccer, and then they started kicking me the ball, and I started playing soccer with them. And then I said, "You guys sit down. I want to talk with you guys a little bit." So I was just talking to them about life. I mean, I had more fun doing that than talking to 14,000 people or 12,000 people at night, because that is part of my purpose. Is I like lifting people up in settings that most people will not go to. So that's fulfillment to me.
I just had a realization as you were saying that.
Yeah.
So excited to share. So, I was a Pell Grant recipient. So what that means is that my parents combined made less than 50,000 a year and, had a very tumultuous upbringing, back and forth, mutual restraining orders, not great, right? So similar.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that resulted from that was that when I started to get a taste of my own potential, it really caused this drive in me where it's great, right? It was great. I started a company very young. I, was in a lot of media outlets. Awesome. And I had this moment. I was working with a coach, and she would say it was woo spiritual because it wasn't that common for business coaches to take you down a spiritual journey.
Yes.
And I was never 100% satisfied with anything. I could have multiple interviews, have a great business meeting, and I'd still be like, I feel like I haven't done enough today.
Mm.
And she told me, she said, she made me close my eyes, and she said, what is, if you were to die today, what would make you feel fulfilled in how you spent your day? And she took it further than that. She said, instead of your to-do lists, I feel like you would leave a lot of your potential out of the world if you only focused on that. And this was at a point when I was very successful, for especially given my age.
Oh, yeah.
So keep that in mind. She said, your greatest purpose is to find fulfillment in today. And so with that, my realization was that from that, I took a meeting that I never would have otherwise taken.
Yeah.
It led me to a conversation I had with somebody that 4 years later actually led to the idea of this podcast.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So give me one lesson that you got from that.
It was that for people who don't know how to trust synchronicities or hear their inner voice,
Mm-hmm.
when you focus on fulfillment, that will always turn into something down the line, and not from a transactional standpoint. That's not why you do it, but it will always turn into something down the line that brings you more into alignment with your journey.
Yes.
And so just by focusing on that, you can come into alignment with your journey, even if you don't know what your journey is.
I'm loving that. And it's why, like, sometimes people will say, what happened to that actress? Or what happened to that actor? And many times I know the inside story. I go, they were just done. But she was so amazing. She was done. I know her, and she's enjoying raising her 3 kids. She obviously made enough money. She's done. So I think that there is a system out there that we've talked about where it's supposed to be like the more the better, the more we flex, the better. I just don't buy into that at all. Because I know the other side of it, because I've been on the other side of the wall of the Wizard of Oz. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. And I think that was good for me to be in my mid-20s and be around the biggest entertainers in Beverly Hills and see on the other side of the Wizard of Oz that they had similar problems or sometimes even bigger problems.
Worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Worse. Mm-hmm. Because when your visibility is higher, when you have more on the line, more people, see you as something that they want something from,
yeah,
or somebody that they want something from, or whatever it may be. A lot of times it amplifies
mm-hmm.
the problems, and then it can be very isolating. This is what I've seen from friends I've been around. It can be very isolating if they can't trust people.
Yeah. There's a proverb that says, do you see a person skilled at their work? They will be ushered into the presence of the great. It's an amazing way of thinking, is that so many people that I know that have done amazing things, like even some of our mutual friends, they spent time in the lab, as you talk about, and they became skilled at something, almost as Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours. They became so skilled at something that people had to call for them. So this is what I think is happening in your life. Like, you've been in the lab, you've been in the dark at times, you've been in the quiet at times, you've been in the awkward at times, but it's nice to see in this endeavor that all these things you've learned and how you become so skilled that now you're being ushered out and your voice is being heard in this sense.
Thank you. So to wrap the show, I'd love to first of all hear any additional advice you have for anybody who's listening to the show and wherever they may be on their journey, knowing that you have coached the greatest in the world, across every field, every space, and also people from all walks of life.
Yes.
What advice would you give?
I would truly say that you may not be what you want to be. Okay. But thank God you're not what you used to be. But really take that in. You may not be what you want to be, because I'm not there. But thank God you're not what you used to be. We're more awake. We're more aware. Most of us are more wise. We've learned. We have scars. We've been through pain. We're not what we used to be. We've come a lot farther than we give ourselves credit for. So give yourself grace.
I love that. And on the note of giving yourself grace and unlocking this comeback and miracle mentality, where can people find more of your work and what you'll be doing in the future?
Yeah, I think the best way is just timstorey.com. So TIMSTOREY.com. And it shows the things that I do. But I have to say this, as your friend, so proud of you, and keep coming in with all that energy, because some of us love it. We embrace it. And it's so exciting to see you just take it to the next level, because that's really what's going to happen to you. And it should be that way. It should be that you learn from the mentors who went before you, and then you take it to the next level.
Well, thank you. I am just hoping to help everyone unlock their minds, unlock their soul's calling. And I'm sure that the audience is going to love this episode, and maybe they'll love it so much that we'll have you back for a part 2.